If it doesn't look professional, I'm probably not going to watch it or listen to it.
The hard truth is that not everybody has a personality.
As long as you're passionate about it, it will absolutely take off.
I've been asked to share how I managed to use my podcast to get an internship at Klowt. But I don't know if you know, I'm basically the bad boy at Klowt, right? I'm the rebel, okay? And I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to do something else that might get me in trouble and could potentially get me the sack. I'm going to tell you how you can start up your own podcast in literally 3 simple steps, right? And all you really need is a laptop, a Wi-Fi connection, and some earphones. So the first thing you need to do is you need to type in Anchor for Spotify or Spotify podcasts on Google. Once you get on there, sign up, and then what they do is they'll use any of the audio files that you upload onto that website. They'll distribute that as a podcast. As long as you have a name and you create your logo on Canva, then you start your podcast. There you go, and you don't need us to start your podcast. You can use Zoom to record it, and then just like me, you can get 1 or 2 leads off the back of your Zoom podcast. Now, if you want to go really premium and you want to get the big boy leads, I'm talking about the big boy leads, you know what I'm talking about, then you might want to come work with us. But I think for now, it's straightforward, it's simple, it's free, and we all love free stuff. Get on Google, type in Spotify podcast, set up your podcast, think of a name, no one really cares about the name at the beginning, and then Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt, you've got a podcast completely for free. Happy days.
So why does the production quality of your podcast matter? Right now I'm sat in our new podcast studio, 2 ring lights set up on me, all looks good. Honestly, if I'm watching a podcast and the audio production is dreadful on it, or the video production, the lighting setup, whatever, if it doesn't look professional, I'm probably not going to watch it or listen to it. For not very much money you can pick up a setup that looks professional. The cameras we use, they're not the most expensive cameras in the world. They shoot in 4K, that's all we need. As long as you've got good lighting, good video and good audio, people will watch, they will listen, and they will be more interested in what you're saying. Leveling up the production of your podcast will increase your reach. Do it.
So, does everyone need a podcast? Controversially, I think the answer is no. And I'll tell you why. Because what the fuck does everybody have to talk about on a podcast? If I'm listening to a podcast, I want to hear someone that's actually, A, got something to say, B, it would be a bonus if it was genuinely funny, and C, I want to hear the personality. And the hard truth is that not everybody has a personality. And so, start a podcast, but don't expect any listeners if you've not got anything decent to say.
Hi, I'm Lizzie. I'm Klowt's newly appointed social sec, and I want to talk a little bit about why culture is so important to me as a salesperson. Now, sales is naturally quite a tough role. It requires a lot of resilience. You get rejected quite a lot, and things just don't go your way that much. So it's really important to have a team around you where everyone's collaborating, everyone's having a lot of fun, and when you're having maybe more of a rough day or having to be really resilient, you have people that you can bounce back on. It's also just incredibly motivating to be surrounded by a bunch of people that are all on the same journey.
Look, I think the main reason why podcasts work really well, and the reason I decided to do a podcast, was it gives me, one, a reason to talk to people that otherwise would have no interest in talking to me, which is a fantastic thing for someone who loves to talk to other people and gets all their energy from other people. But the second reason, and probably most important reason why starting a podcast was so beneficial to me and my brand and my business, but also should be beneficial to you as well, is it gives you a basis to create content, right? I don't create anything anymore. Every single piece of my content comes from doing stuff like this or from my podcast. And what I mean by that is, I've just done a 45-minute podcast with someone. One of my team members was sitting in here and has created timestamps of all the things that I said that they thought could be turned into content. We're then going to go and edit that video and take out those little sound bites that I've said over the course of that 45-minute podcast. And I believe there's about 15 pieces of content that can be taken out of that. That's now 2 weeks worth of content. So that's why you should start a podcast. And that is why I started a podcast. It wasn't necessarily to create followings on Spotify or Apple Music. It was to give myself a basis, because I'm incredibly lazy, to create content and be able to distribute it at scale and a large volume without putting too much effort in.
Fancies it, and she goes for it. It is a hand, it's a headset, and we have balance, and there we go, and it's to be.
So recently we've been seeing more and more podcasts, and existing podcasts as well, being launched as video podcasts, so on YouTube as well as on audio platforms like Spotify. And I'm personally here for it, because the key difference between that audio and video element is, of course, the visual part of it. So on videos, you can actually see how people interact with each other, and you can focus on how they're saying something rather than simply just what they say, and also their body language. And that means that a podcast given in that way can actually tell you really handy nuggets of information that you might actually not necessarily find out on a company's website. Things like any upcoming projects that they've got, how their operations work, what their team culture's like. So I truly recommend, if you really want to find out about what working at a company is like and whether it could be the right company for you, definitely check out if they have a podcast, because it could actually be the key difference between you standing out in a job interview or landing a client versus you not doing that.
Does a corporate podcast help your personal brand? Yes and no. If you're making a podcast just because everyone and their mum is doing it, then you're not going to keep on topic, it's going to be boring, you're not going to enjoy it, and it will eventually fizzle out after a few episodes. Tarek's got a great statistic, which is that the top 1% of podcasts only have to make more than 7 episodes. So as long as you're passionate about it, it will absolutely take off. The reason why it can help your personal brand is that it's extra content for you, it puts your face out there, you get to network with loads of people and meet really cool people and ask them about cool stuff in their lives. So yeah, if you're doing it for the right reasons, then absolutely.